Welcome to another Side Crisis Super Nintendo Edition. This is going to be the last one for now. I do plan on coming back to the Super Nintendo because there's just so much good shit. Like there's a reason that it is my favorite video game system of all time, home to many of my favorite video games of all time. I think that if you weigh the global library of the Super Nintendo against its contemporaries, it is, dare I say, head and shoulders above. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of all of it. I love the Sega Genesis. I love TurboGrafx and PC Engine. I love the Jaguar for a different set of reasons and circumstances. But I do think at the end of the day, you look at the whole picture, I think Super Nintendo was the top guy. It was the guy. It was the Hogan 87. It was the world champion of video game systems. And in a lot of hearts and minds today, it still occupies that top spot. And that's just the fucking way it is, Jack. I don't know how else to say it. So we're going to end things on another Enix game, another Quintet developed game. This is another one that I rented a whole hell of a lot. It is Enix's Soul Blazer. So now, okay, these games, so there's ActRaiser, there's Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, and then in Europe and Japan only, the sequel to Illusion of Gaia, which is a sequel to Soul Blazer, is a game called Terra Nigma, which is great. I cannot recommend that one enough. And it is one of those games where for years and years it was unattainable. You had to import it on a European Super Nintendo to play it in English. And then some heroes came along several years back and they adapted the English script to the Japanese version of the game so that you could play it on an NTSC system. And I did that on, where is it? This thing right here. One of the absolute first things I did with this EverDrive was load up a English translation of Terra Nigma and played through it. What a great game. But the first game in that series is Soul Blazer. And I don't think Soul Blazer is talked about enough. I just don't. It's got all the same players of ActRaiser. It's got Yuzo Koshiro doing the wonderful music. Quintet was all the same guys that made ActRaiser. And this is kind of it's an action RPG, kind of like a Zelda, but there's a twist there. So you got your top-down view, or isometric. Yeah, it's top-down, not isometric. But you have like a overworld where you would enter into, and it's just this barren land. And I'll show you that as we get into it. But then over time, you go back and forth, just like an ActRaiser. You go from the action stage stuff back to the world building. You do the same thing in Soul Blazer, but instead of building a town, it's like you're kind of unraveling a mystery, and you're literally like bringing people back to life, so on and so forth. It's a really cool concept, and it just feels like a early 90s ass game. So like if you played the older Ys games, for example, so Wanderers from Ys Book 1 and 2, that kind of stuff. There's like a certain feel and look to that type of RPG that really isn't around anymore. It's like almost like a hyper compact game that maybe feels a little bit more epic than it actually is. It's very like directed, I guess, for lack of a better term. Feels open, but it's not. Like, I don't know. I love this style of game, and it's something that no one really makes anymore. No one makes anymore today, I should say. But who knows? Maybe I could see some indie developer who, just like me, grew up playing these Quintet games, and maybe they would be inspired to make something like that. I know if I had that skill set, I would try to do something like this, but I don't. My skill set is obviously in fashion. And also in creating soundboards.
We invented Hamster and Felldog, and it just globally went around the world, and that's how we were known. The motto of, the two Corys are Cory and Cory, or Hamster and Felldog.
Yeah, obviously. So what are we thinking? Maybe Soul Blazer, we should go... How should we do this, Cory?
Go solo for a while. I need to fly alone.
Gotta fly alone on this one. It's a single-player game, so that makes sense. All right. Last little thing. What do you think? What's the best way to go about this?
Trying to get to be the older brother or the only brother.
I'm gonna only brother this one, of course, because Uncle Bob's not here with us to play Soul Blazer, and that's fine. Because I don't know if he would get it. I don't know if he grew up playing Soul Blazer, and this is one of those games where it would cause me physical and emotional pain to hear anyone say anything negative about it. So, with that, I'm gonna do this. We'll give us a little sound here. So I do think the music rules in this game. And then I'm gonna appear right here in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. And let's get going. Let's see, my number one, of course it's Ric Flair. He's the first file. That's my finished game. Let's do a new one. Let's start at the beginning. So right away, if you've played Illusion of Gaia, this is pretty familiar, I'm sure. You have the exact same setup in this game. Like, you have to come back to this like temple type thing. All right, let's give a name here. Perfect. Let's see. So, gotta go save the world for all of its creatures. I believe the orange thing is your save game. Yep, it is. We don't need to do that right now. And then this first area takes you to the first section of the game. So we got our sword, which you do have to equip. Yeah, you do. So this is what I mean. Like, this is what reminds me of Ys so much. Like, you have this simple weapons and armor magic menu, and the fact that you have to go in and equip stuff. It doesn't do it automatically. Yeah, it's annoying, and maybe it is a bit of an inconvenience, but it just has that feel. It's just that old Japanese action RPG feel. So, similar to ActRaiser, these enemies are coming out of that seal. Oh, and also, the sound of the character being attacked is the exact same sound effect as the ActRaiser one. They just used it. So he used to live up in the sky just like you. There's another thing that comes from ActRaiser, living up in the sky. You'll remember the Sky Palace. All right, so this is the setup. You got to free everyone. They're kind of trapped in this like underworld, which is basically like the dungeons of the game. I got my first magic, Flame Ball magic, which is I'm happy to receive. Okay, let's do it. Come on. Skip? Can I push start? No. So this little glowy thing, kind of like a Navi to Link, they hang out with us. They're with us for the game. Okay, so this is the first town that you're in. Completely empty. Nothing at all here. So now when I first rented this game as a kid, and you go through that initial setup, which I'm sure I ADD B-tapped right through it. But there's not a whole lot of training wheels here. So you've got to just kind of figure out what the hell's going on. And the first thing that you got to do is... So there's this little flower that's telling you many creatures will be held in the underground, which is that cave right there. So, whoops, did not mean to do that. Skip through that. That little flower is the guy that was talking to us. So what you do, and this is like the main gameplay hook of Soul Blazer. You go into a dungeon, then you beat up some monsters and listen to some ripping ass music. And then eventually, areas in the dungeon will open up, and then areas in the overworld will open up at the same time. So you want to get through one to get through the other. Just like ActRaiser. Listen to those. You know what? I'm going to bump the volume up. Just a bit. Just a bit there. Because oh, Jesus. I was too distracted by the ripping tunes. Let's go back to it. Yeah, so this whole setup is pretty forgiving. Like when you die, you can go right back to it. As long as you have the Super Nintendo powered on and you remember to save your game, like all that progress will save. Which, from a quality of life standpoint, 1991 is when I think this game came out, or maybe 92. That was not the norm. So like having that user access was a pretty welcome thing, I must say. Still is. All right, let's go this way. What we're looking for is a switch to unlock the next area of the dungeon. And then also, I believe it's, yeah, there we go. You do have to kill all the enemies that come out of those monster seals. And then this happens. So now there's a building in the city. And you can go talk to her and get more plot line and get more information about what you're supposed to do down here in the dungeons. Now, it's been a really long time since I played Illusion of Gaia. Probably haven't played it since... Well, I know I'm sure I've played it on the EverDrive just to fart through it, but I haven't beaten it or played much of it at all since it came out in the 90s. I don't remember if the setup is exactly the same. Like if it mirrors Soul Blazer exactly the same. In Terranigma, it is kind of the same, but there's more of a traditional JRPG feel to that game. I wonder, I probably should have looked this up before I started yapping, but I wonder what ended up happening to Quintet, the developers. Like, what did they end up doing after the Super Nintendo? I mean, all their games were fairly successful, so I can't imagine. I'm sure they did something on the 32-bit generation somewhere. I just don't know off the top of my head. Let me turn that down a little bit, just a bumpski. So we're gonna go back to the overworld. Let's go talk to that old lady in that house that we just unlocked. Husband used to be the village chief. One day he suddenly disappeared, along with other villagers. I feel so lonely. How about being one of my children? That's a little weird. You don't know me at all, lady, and you're asking to adopt me, but let's do it. Oh, she's also a big fan of the hamster.
We went around the world, and that's how we were known. Corey. The motto of, the two Corys are Corey and Corey, yep. Or Hamster and Felldog.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's go back down to the dungeon. I need to suck a little less at playing the action sequences so we can get a little farther. Yeah, again, I just love listening to this music. The music, I don't know if I said this yet or not. I probably did, but sometimes I get distracted by, a Corey Haim soundboard. The music in this game might be my favorite thing. And I love this game, so that's saying a lot. It's, it means a good deal. God, these fuckers, they come at you, man. They just come at you. You got to kind of position the sword in a way, to, like how I just did there. I'm remembering that now. You gotta protect your body, because if you go head on, like I don't have a sword strong enough to kill them in one shot. So you gotta play it smart. I don't know how many more monsters are in that lair. So some other things about ActRaiser and this game being similar. All of the text is the same font. The HP, the life bar, is exactly the same. I mentioned the sound effects. Yeah, let's go talk to that gemstone there. I will give you some advice. Don't forget to equip things. Yeah, no shit. Let's stay, because I don't think we unlocked anything in Grass Valley. Can you attack the... Yes, you can. We're going to go up this bridge. Those green dot switchy things. That's what we're looking for. Oh, shit. Ah! There we go. Look at these suckers. I wish we could do that. I thought we could... Ah! Thought we could attack through the wall there. So fun fact, here's a Super Nintendo fun fact. Games were coming out, so I mentioned in an earlier Side Crisis that in America the last Super Nintendo game was released in 1998. In Japan, 2003. So the Super Nintendo had a 13-year run in Japan. Try that on. Or at least the support for the system stopped in 2003. So you could still use things like the Satellaview, which was like an over satellite game service. And I do think some games like Mahjong and Shogi games were coming out on cartridges as late as 2000, 2001, shit like that. Pretty crazy, man. But it's a testament to how good, how well designed the hardware was. Like you could get away with supporting this thing for that long. You know, like it's not too dissimilar from the Neo Geo, which had a run 1990 to 2004. Although it's a bit of an apples and slightly prettier apples comparison. The Neo Geo was a bit more powerful and definitely is noticeably better looking than Super Nintendo. But also from a genre standpoint, there's, you know, it's pretty much just shooters, fighting games, and puzzle games, and some soccer games. That's all of Neo Geo. Super Nintendo there's a ton of different genres and stuff represented on there. Okay, so we unlocked another thing in the main, in Green Valley, Grass Valley, whatever it's called. Maybe we'll head back there in a bit. So we gotta reverse this thing, don't we? No, we don't. No, we do not. Oh boy. I am pretty close to dying. Oh! I forgot about that. What a neat feature. So when you level up, you get all your health back. Boy, oh boy, is that welcome. And I'm killing these guys in fewer hits. Looks like 2 hits instead of 3. Oh god. I have a... Oh yeah, that's right, I have magic. Let's see if I can equip it. No armor. Magic, yes. Equipped. Alright, let's use that bad boy. Oops. So the fireball comes from that spinning... It's almost like an option from a shooting, like a shooter game, or shmup, if you'd rather. Alright. Making some progress. Sweet, sweet progress. Okay. Now these guys are... Oh, it's like 5 hits to kill them. Yeah, let's use the fire. Use that fire where appropriate. And we're out. Yeah, the gold balls. Those are, they call them gems. That's how, that's the ammo for your magic. Darn it, this stupid wheel. It's so hard to turn. And that wheel controls this elevator, if I remember right. Yep. Oh god, oh god, oh god. So now we have no choice. We're stuck, and we have to go do some stuff in Grass Valley to advance. Oh yeah, that one's the one. We could, well, let's, I guess, maybe. Maybe I should, no, how about I die instead? I was gonna unlock that switch there, but what are you gonna do? All right, let's go back to Grass Valley. We'll fart around there for a little bit, and then we'll wrap it on up. Wrap it on up. Okay, so this bridge is new. This house is new. Let's go in there first. It is a shop. Yeah, so you get a medical herb here, and you can get it again and again. That is exactly also what it's like in Ease. So there's yet another commonality there. I guess it is not really necessary to guard such a small bridge. He just had a bit of a crisis there, pun intended. He's like, why am I doing this? Yes. I will absolutely try to turn that wheel. Here we go. So now the elevator is going to work in the underground castle. But before we go back, let's keep exploring. I remember we unlocked some ivy to go down somewhere. There's a big house. I think it's like the mayor's house that appears here. Another area where this is similar to ActRaiser is like the whole act thing. Like I'm in this underground castle doing stuff, but at a certain point I'll fight a boss and then you have to do more stuff to unlock another area of action. And then once that's done, then you go to another town. Ooh, we got armor. Equip that. Equip it. Okay. What's the gem say? Ooh, I'll take that XP. I ain't stupid. Okay, let's head back. I don't even have to talk to him anymore. He just gets it. He just realizes that he's wasted his life guarding a 4-foot-long bridge. And let's head back in here and go up that elevator and see what happens. So, look at this. The monsters stay dead. So that's nice. You feel the progress there. In so many 8 and 16-bit games, all your enemies come back all the time. Some of the enemies come back all the time here. So these like weird blue things that are on the ground and the torch things over there. But once you kill an enemy seal, they're gone for good. So it makes backtracking and all that stuff easier to deal with. Okay, I'll kill this one. See what happens, you run into a spot where you forget that you have a monster's lair open, and then you'll go back into the game and hunt it down and get lost. That's kind of that's the Soul Blazer story. So it's best to just take care of these things as you come across them. Get it. There's another talking flower. Why do you need 2 water mills? What are you guys doing? What are you milling? Alrighty. Back across. Let's just take care of this guy. Let's just do it. I should maybe kill this guy first. Yeah. Get some magic. Actually, so this particular seal, I remember as a kid, completely missing. I had everything in Grass Valley unlocked, and I couldn't progress any further. And it was like one of those walk-by monster seals. Yeah, there you go. You need the dream rod in order to. There's like I think it's one of the tulips that's like sleeping, and then you can go into their dream using the dream rod, and that's the second act. That's how you fight the main boss. And I remember just whizzing on by without a care in the world and being totally lost, and that was what I needed. Oh God. Oh, God. Okay. Well, let's call it there, gang. Alrighty. So, that's Soul Blazer. It rules. One of my favorites. Funny story about it. Well, it's not really funny. It's kind of not a story either, but what are you going to do? Oh, real quick. I haven't talked about this yet. Look at that. Look at that. Super Nintendo games used to come with these, every one of them. And then Nintendo decided, hey, fuck you. We're not going to include these anymore. And they also changed. So you see on the cartridge, let's do that. Zoom in camera. So this cartridge has this like big block of plastic here. And then in newer games, here's Final Fantasy III, they did that to it. So they kind of changed up the cartridge. They got rid of these, and then they got rid of some plastic, and that was like a mid-generation thing that they did. I don't know. It's just worth mentioning. It's worth mentioning. Let's Desi Arnaz this bucket hat a little bit. Good Lord, I look like just a grade A piece of shit. Anyway, okay, Super Nintendo, the best. It's the best. I'm definitely going to be doing more Super Nintendo side crisis talk because there's a lot more to cover. Going back to Soul Blazer, that story that I got distracted on because of my gnat-like attention span. When I got back into, so I want to say it was 2010. I got all the way back in buying Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis cartridges, all that stuff. I think a lot of people around that time just kind of through whatever it is, cultural osmosis, whatever, YouTube channels starting, it kind of, there seemed to be like this uptick in interest in retro game collecting. And at that time, a lot of this stuff was still nice and cheap. It wasn't like late 90s cheap. Those days are long gone. But I remember buying this copy of Soul Blazer, which is in pretty good. I mean, look at that label. You know what I'm saying? Focus. There we go. That's a good label. It's a good looking label. I think this was like $50. And I was like, ooh, that's a little pricey, a little spendy. But I'd be happy if I didn't own it to spend $50 on Soul Blazer, or any of these games for that matter. I think everything that I played so far on Side Crisis, with the exception of maybe Legend of the Mystical Ninja. Oh, and Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong Country is still fairly cheap, like $15-$20. There's millions of them. It was like one of the top selling Super Nintendo games. So that one's an easy get. But Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy III, all that stuff, just not cheap anymore. So, okay. What to say here? Let's see. Let me check in with my man. Let's see what we need to do there.
Trying to get to be the older brother or the only brother.
All right. That's one thing to say.
I'm trying to get in the habit of, picking up a book, learning how to write my feelings down. Not my feelings, but my thoughts about things.
Okay, perfect. And I do have some thoughts about things as well, Corey. The Super Nintendo, I think, deserves all of the fandom that it enjoys today. When you look at something like this, the Super Nintendo Mini, which sold very well for Nintendo. I think there's a reason, if you look at the sales numbers, Super Nintendo isn't the top selling system of all time. It didn't sell as much as the NES. Sold more than the N64, of course. Didn't sell anywhere near what the Switch has done. But I think that there's a legacy there. And I think Nintendo's done a good job, better job than we'll say most, of like continuously making their stuff playable for future generations. And so you encounter a lot of younger people today who go out and buy a Super Nintendo either in a store or on eBay, and they buy some games, or they'll buy an EverDrive or whatever it is, and just deep dive explore that library because I think it's worth the time. It's probably more worth the time than, I don't know. I mean, I think it's more worth your time than the NES. I mean, maybe if I was 45 and not 40, I would sing a different song. But even then, I don't know. I think that the reason why the Super Nintendo is beloved, or as beloved as it is because it's in the sweet spot, pardon me, of being like really truly timeless. I think the gameplay on these games it holds up. I think the music holds up. I think the graphic holds up. It all holds up. And so yeah, that's why the Super Nintendo was, you know, gonna be in the first run of these side Crisis deals where I'm playing favorite games on favorite systems. So that being said, let me take off my super dumb hat. I'm gonna do this because my head hurts a little bit, and I'll say thank you for watching. Thank you so much to Corey.
I had a blast with Corey.
For being a part of this. And I'll say, come on back. I'm going to do more of these. Like, subscribe, check us out on Spotify. Tell your friends about this program. That really helps. We're trying to bump up the numbers so we can do more. And we've got other ideas down the chamber. So, until then, thank you so much for watching.